And then the final part of today's talk, we wanted to look at the T in BERT, stands for travel. So when we talk about expats, we're talking about people that have relocated. Once somebody's relocated and they've got citizenship after 10 years living in another country, they're not really an expat. They've relocated and they've become a citizen, and that they have the equivalent citizen rights in that new country. An expat is somebody that is actually living or working in that foreign country and moving between the two places maybe, and needs to be able to travel. But some people from Britain or the EU want to invest in holiday homes or investment property so that they can travel to Spain or Portugal or Cyprus for their holiday homes. And travel is a factor for them. And of course we've got Corona, which has created a bit of a crisis for anybody who wanted to go cross-border and enjoy their property in another location, and obviously devastates potential property letting and rental businesses in the short term. We can't predict how things will progress in terms of travel arrangements, but we can look at what the rules are today and what the rules are likely to be for the next month or two. So don't forget, generally the governments are being cautious and they're acting on a 3-week cycle because it takes a week to pass the disease on and a week for symptoms to show up and a week for you to know whether those symptoms are bad or not. So many people have got Corona and no symptoms and it's just gone away, but because the governments haven't tested everybody, they don't know that absolutely. So there's a lot of monitoring of all the bugs that are flying around, and a lot of caution as we all adopt to the new ways of working. Well, in Cyprus, everyone's back at work, they're back shopping, they're back eating out, and it's actually quite simple. It's the same, but it's different. Yes, you have to keep apart. Yes, you have to wash your hands. Yes, you have to not touch public documents, public services. And yes, you have to clean them down as you go along. And no, you can't go out if you've got a sniffle or a cold or a cough. And those basic hygiene principles, everybody's learnt those and been conditioned that within the lockdown. And so things can progress. And so it's just a matter of getting that timing right so there isn't another outbreak. Unfortunately, because they're measuring every single case, we're quite tied up and consumed by the ongoing every case is a headline, or should it be. In Cyprus, there's 17 deaths which related to Corona. So, and in London at the beginning of June, the number of expected deaths was below the norm that was expected. So there's less people dying in London in June than they would normally expect. So, Corona is not decimating the London population at the moment. It's actually quite a healthy place to live, and that's the outcome of the lockdown. And I don't know whether I can say this macabre fact, but of course it's also the fact that those that would have died this year may have died a bit sooner, and that's a sad thing to happen. But unfortunately, we saw that Corona did take out people that were vulnerable and were maybe in the last year or two of their life anyway. So that's what we're watching out for. So what is the current travel arrangements? So the UK introduced this bizarre 14-day quarantine if you go into the UK. Bizarre because it's a sound step, but it appears to be at the wrong time, because people are coming from countries which have got a better COVID record at the moment into a country which has got more COVID. But once those people are in country, they're not being tested when they arrive, only being asked if they've got the symptoms, and then they're not being monitored. So being allowed to go pretty freely around. That, yes, stay in your place, stay in your lockdown, but is that practical to holidays? Is it practical to business? No, it's not. So it's effectively closed off the UK for business, for expats. So if somebody wants to go on a holiday for 2 weeks abroad to Spain, they're currently left with the potential of coming back to the UK and having 2 weeks of lockdown before they can go back to work and what have you. Now, we can work around it, but is that the best way? It's one way of doing it. The second way that's happening in more other places in Europe, so if you're travelling to Europe, if you're allowed to travel to Europe from the UK or within Europe, so Cyprus opened their airports from the 9th of June, stage by stage, until the middle of July when the airports will be fully open. And certain countries you're allowed to travel to, and that number will be extended on depending upon the COVID corona record of those countries. So what we're seeing at the moment is that if you want to fly into Cyprus, you have to have a COVID test within 3 days of making the trip. So 3 days before, you have to go along, have a COVID test, to test negative obviously, to be able to travel into Cyprus, so that they know that the people are coming in have had a recent test and they're corona free. So if the social distancing on the airline is enforced and it's clean and it's hygienically effective and nobody on that plane has got corona, then you can let those people in knowing that they haven't got corona, and therefore you don't have to lock them down. So that's the EU approach, and the approach if you're coming to live in coming to Cyprus. So UK expats can come to Cyprus now without any lockdown, as long as they've had that COVID test 3 days within 72 hours of making the trip out. The problem is when the UK to the return. So we're waiting for the UK to see if they'll revise that 14-day lockdown period, or maybe adopt a testing strategy, because obviously if you test everybody that's coming in and they haven't got corona, then they don't need to lock down. But it's two ways to tackle the same problem, and the UK is out of sync with Europe at the moment, so we just need to see and adapt as we go along. Businesses, meanwhile, have got to get through the summer, and how are you going to carry on working with these different speeds of relaxation of travel if you want to get people visiting your branches overseas, or you've got business deals to do abroad? How are you going to be able to do that effectively? Well, we've got to continue to invest in online business, got to continue to do online meetings and online work. So that's where businesses need to go. I know that with our business, ProACT, we divided it up quite a lot. It turns out we were already pretty online, and most of our clients are a bit bemused, but they shouldn't be, because our reception centre, our call centre reception is in the UK. So people from the UK office answer the phone and take a message. It doesn't mean that the consultant that you need to speak to is immediately available, but that person might have been busy. Even if you've been able to phone an office straight away, that person could be in a meeting or presenting a live webinar or doing an important piece of work for another client. So they're not necessarily going to be available anyway. So generally, we have people that take messages so we can get back to them. And that slows down the process of doing the work, but it can make it more precise as well. So, and that's something that's not completely different, but it's adoption of a different mentality within the business to move forward. So we know now that all our clients have their phone answered for 10 hours a day during business hours, and that message, people are going to get a call back within 1 day. So businesses have to adapt for that. So any guidance and help you want with that cross-border travel, or reorganising the business, or reorganising your tax bases, consider that and contact us at ProACTPartnership.com. You've got our info at ProACT Partnership as the email, or you can go to our contact us page and have your question. We'll feature your questions generally in our webinars, or get back to you directly with one of our client service team that will call you with an online meeting. we prefer to use FaceTime, WhatsApp or Google Meetings, but we can just use an old-fashioned telephone call. So contact us and we'll be here to help. There's quite a lot changing, but for BERT, it's an interesting month, and we know now that Brexit is going to happen at the end of 2020. So if you've got ambitions to be an expat and resident in the EU, you need to make your move before the end of the year so that we can use the lower level of EU citizen rights for a UK expat to relocate within the EU for living and working, setting up a business. We're available to do that. Contact us at proactpartnership.com, and it will keep you updated on things like as the travel unwinds and what you need to look out for there to support your overseas property, your overseas business, or your overseas lifestyle.